Hey guys, I'm Tichin here. I got a little bit controversial topic. Hopefully you can keep it civil in the comment section as well. Topic is, with regards to police, are they mostly all bad, or is it just a few bad ones that give the rest a bad name? Because that's what most people say. I think the majority of people believe that cops in general are good, and then you get a few bad cops that give the rest a bad name. Okay, let's look at it from that point of view. Okay, because that point of view does have some good evidence to back it up. Because if you have 100 cops, and then one of them is bad, that one bad cop will go out and do bad things, and when someone finds out or gets him on video doing something bad, he will make it to the news. The other 99 cops that are good, when they're out doing good things, do they get filmed? No. Are they going to be on the news? A cop does his job, breaking news story. No. So yeah, that kind of makes sense. The reason why we always hear about bad cops on the news is because nobody's going to report about the good cops, and therefore the 1 in 100 bad cops are going to be the only ones we ever hear about. So people are going to start to think, oh, all cops are bad, when in actuality, the vast majority of them are good, and it's just only the bad ones that we hear about. Okay, yeah, it makes sense if you talk about it like that. But let's say, for example, the opposite is the opposite side. So you got 100 cops, 99 of them are bad, and 1 is good. What happens in this situation? Well, in this situation, it's going to be pretty much the same as the first situation. Every once in a while, you're going to get one of the bad cops, which is the vast majority, on film doing something bad. It's going to make it to the news, and that's the cops that don't intimidate the person into not, handing them over the camera, or they grab their cell phone and smash it, or they take the evidence away and destroy it. So, the odd one that works its way through to YouTube or whatever. And then the one good cop is not going to get reported. So the argument that doesn't look as strong then, because initially they're just saying, yeah, well, obviously you're only going to hear about the bad cops in the news, but the good cops nobody's going to report, so therefore most cops are good. Okay, but let's just say if all cops are bad, would it be any different? You'd still only hear about the bad cops, and the odd good cop that is out there, you still wouldn't hear about them. So just because we hear about the bad cops doesn't necessarily make the rest of the cops good, okay? And then you got to take a look at instances where there's many police officers in a group. What happens in those instances when if the bad cops are and I'm not, first of all, I want to say people already know I'm not exactly the biggest fan of police, but that's not even true. That's not even accurate. I have the utmost respect, the absolute utmost, for good police officers. If you're a police officer and you watch our Constable of the Law in any shape or form, and you watch my videos, don't unsubscribe, because I love you. My father was a cop. I have a few friends in Taiwan that are police. Actually, one of my best friends, his brother-in-law is the chief of police of a certain city, and I'm not going to say which. And I hang out with that guy on a semi-regular basis, and so I know a lot of police. My father was a police officer. I would love to be a police officer. Okay, you can quote me. I would love to become a cop. I would think it would be an awesome job to have. But if I was a cop, I would do my fucking utmost to be a good cop. I would be proud. I'd be fucking proud. I'd be like, I'm a fucking hero. I'm a fucking cop. I'm a superhero. I'm out there every day saving lives, protecting people. That's how I would look at the job. And I wouldn't give a shit about how much money I made. I wouldn't accept bribes unless it was for something trivial. But I would be out there. This corner is so much fun, and I'm talking to you assholes. Just wasted a perfectly good corner because of you fucktards. I was doing fucking walking speed. Should have had my fucking knee down. You cocksuckers. Oh shit, I'm getting scared now. Oh, okay. It's a good thing I didn't go fast in that first corner. Thanks, guys. Saved my life. That second corner scared me. Actually, the reason I got scared is because I see people crash on that corner every single week. It's rare on a weekend for me to go around those last few bends and not see a vehicle smash into the wall. Like, that's how common it is. It's like, it's nuts. I guess because it's downhill, I guess. So yeah, I would, yeah, but honestly, I would like to be a police officer. But here's the thing. So after, but here's the thing. I personally believe, and I'm not 100% certain on this fact, but I'm pretty close, that the vast majority of police are in fact bad. And now I'm going to back it up. But it's the good ones that I love, and the bad ones, it's disgusting and it sucks for the bad cops too. I pity them, I really do, because they must hate themselves, because in their heart they know that they're a police officer. They know that they're supposed to be a hero, they're supposed to protect people, but in actuality they're like molesting drunk chicks in their cars and assaulting people and bullying people and placing false evidence and just doing horrific things. So in their heart they know that they're supposed to be doing this, but they're actually doing the complete fucking absolute opposite. And that with time is literally got to eat away their soul. And if you don't believe in souls, then it's got to eat away their like self-confidence or self-respect. Self-respect, there's the one. They got to have like absolutely no self-respect, and that's a cycle. It's a downward spiral. They become a police officer, and then they start to do some bad things, and then they start to lose respect for themselves. So they start to do more bad things, and then they lose more respect for themselves, and then they do more bad things, and then they fucking loathe themselves. So then they become self-destructive, and then they do horrible things, and that's the cycle of most police officers. Where am I getting this from? Where am I just making this up? Am I talking out of my ass? My father was a police officer. If you take a look at psychological textbooks, that's the profile of the majority of police officers. Like, they've done studies on this. Like, police officers, when doing anonymous studies, will admit, like, it's like the majority of them. This is not my opinion. This is like pretty much a statistical fact. Okay. So, and then somebody on my Facebook recently pointed this out. I think it was a Facebook picture. It's a picture of, like, there's 6 or 7 policemen standing around, and there's a girl handcuffed, and with her hands handcuffed behind her back, and there's a man, one of the cops pulls out his taser, and tasers her, standing like a foot away from her, tasers her in the heart. It's just like, he points right at her chest, and tasers her. She's already handcuffed. She's like fucking 5 foot 2 inches tall, and there's 7 police. And then the comment under the Facebook picture is, if most cops are good, then why isn't one of the other cops that isn't doing the horrific tasering, drop kicking, like, punching the bad cop in the face? Why isn't one of the good cops making an arrest on the bad cop? And that's a very valid point that I actually hadn't really considered, but it's a valid point, because people are saying this a lot on my Facebook. They're defending the police. They're like, most cops are good, it's just a few bad cops. If that's true, then when one of these minority bad cops does something really bad, then why don't they get persecuted? If they're such a minority, then why don't they get made an example of? When they do something bad, why don't they get fired? Why don't they go to jail? It's happening like with Thomas Kelly. Thomas Kelly, for those of you who don't know, I'll put a link in the video description. He's a homeless guy who the cops beat to death. And as they're tasering him and fucking using their baton to smash in his face, like literally break all the bones in his face, and they ended up killing him. They beat him to death. As they're beating him to death, they're yelling out, "Stop resisting!" Like, hands behind your back. And in the video, they said so many times, hands behind your back, and the guy's saying, "I can't." And then as you get further on in the video, you hear the police saying, "Oh, he's handcuffed in the front. Why'd you handcuff him in the front? Shouldn't you have handcuffed him in the back? Like, if you handcuff him in the front, he can still grab at us and stuff when we pick him up." And they're like, "Oh, well, I was having trouble." And So it's kind of odd. It's almost as if the whole time they're yelling at him, hands behind the back, and smashing him in the face with a fucking baton, which doesn't make sense. Like, why are you hitting him in the face? Why? You know, like, why the face? Like, you're gonna do such visible, horrible damage. Why? So maybe the whole time they're smashing him in the face with a baton and telling him hands behind your back, he's handcuffed in the front. Maybe. But regardless, even if he wasn't at that point, it's still like, it was like, you know, 3 huge cops and 1 skinny homeless guy, and they're just, and they're yelling about, oh, he's on PCP, he's on something, you know. Meanwhile, they did toxology reports after the guy died. He was on absolutely nothing. He was just, you know what he was probably on? Adrenaline. He was on adrenaline because he was getting beaten to death, and his body was trying to pump out adrenaline to stop him from dying. That's probably what he was on, you fucking pigs. Ugh, fucking retards. They're tasering him. Remain calm. Bzzz. Stop resisting. Bzzz. Hands behind your back. Bzzz. You fucking idiots. Why don't you just stop hitting him for like 30 seconds and then say, hands behind your back, or we'll start hitting you again, you know. Hands behind your back, or we'll start tasing you again. And maybe check to see that he's not fucking handcuffed in the front, too, while you're at it. Anyways, so like in that other video, there's like 7 cops standing around while 1 cop is tasering a 5-foot-tall girl who's handcuffed behind her back. And if good cops are the majority, and that 1 cop tasering is the odd exception, he's the odd bad guy, then why aren't the other 6 or 7 good cops stopping him? Why aren't they jumping in front of the girl and trying to, like, why are you tasing her? She's already handcuffed. You know, like, even if she's resisting, even if she's refusing to follow orders, we can just move her. She's fucking 5 foot tall. We're all 6 foot tall police who work out regularly and do steroids, and she's a 5 foot tall girl. Why don't we just fucking move her? This car's like scared to pass me or something. You can just pass me. It's not that hard. I'm doing like 2 kilometers an hour. I think he even put his headlights on like to warn me. Let's just start passing people. I guess I ride so slowly when I talk to you guys. I get pretty close to that scooter, but they're going slow and they're like way out. Yeah, so it just, I'm sorry, guys. I truly am sorry. I wish that most cops were good, and it was the minority that's bad. But psychological studies, my own personal experience from talking to multiple police officers, like I've had a half a dozen police officers, including the chief of police, tell me that like an honest cop that doesn't lie, cheat, and steal is like 1 in 100. The Taiwanese cops say you're lucky if you find 1 in 100. And my father in Canada, and Canada isn't as corrupt as America, he said the same thing, 1 in 100. And then if you watch movies, watch documentary type movies. Like, you guys see that movie Drive? Like the cops in that, there's a cop, who's he? Anyways, this is dragging on. Like, if you watch it, so yeah, like Die Hard. Have you guys seen the movie Die Hard? No, I'm just kidding. It just, I wish most cops were good, and personally, I would love to be a police officer. And if you are one of the honest, good cops, then I have the utmost respect for you. But if you're a police officer and you're going to go into the comments section, it's so funny too, because there's a rule. I say, if you want to know which cop, if you know a cop, like you got one in the family or something, and if you want to know if he's good or bad, is a real easy test. Ask him if most cops are good or bad. If he tells you that most cops are bad, then he's one of the good ones. If he tells you that most cops are good, then he's one of the bad ones, because he's lying to you outright, and he himself knows, and he's just so accustomed to lying and cheating that he's just doing it. So yeah. So yeah, that's it. And the Thomas Kelly thing too, like, it started off, there was 2 cops, and then there was 3, and then more showed up. I think at the end of that video, there's like 7 cops standing around. And like, at least, if there was good cops, then don't you think the good cop would notice that the homeless guy who's fucking handcuffed and lying on the ground, being beaten in the face with a baton, is covered in blood. The police officers beating him are covered in blood. Like, it said multiple times in the video, like, hey man, you are covered in blood. The cops are telling the other cops that multiple times in the video. They're just like, you're covered in blood. So, like, don't you think one of those good cops, when they show up and they see the guy getting hit in the fucking head and face with a baton, and he's handcuffed and covered in blood, don't you think one of those good cops would be like, hey man, he's had enough. Hey guys, let's just lay off. We might actually kill this guy. And which is what they end up doing. Anyways, so one last time, I have the utmost respect for honest police officers, but unfortunately it doesn't seem like they're the majority. If you disagree, say so in the comments.